What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Hope you had a great weekend, got to play some games, or just get things done in general. We're back to the work week now. It's Monday, everyone's favorite day of the week. But before we get started, I do want to say congratulations to Adam for winning the drawing for the new 2DS XL that is going out this week, so you should have it well before Samus Returns comes out. But if you didn't win this, don't worry. There's a whole nother giveaway going on now for the new 3DS XL Samus Edition. Just check the link down in the description, and you can get entered for that. We also have a pretty cool flash giveaway coming up that should be this week or early next week that you'll definitely want to be a part of, so make sure you hit the notification bell next to the subscribe button while you're at it. But for now, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is kind of interesting. It's something that's been going on so far this generation with other systems away from the Nintendo Switch. Now it looks like it's going to be a trend going to the Switch, and that is the ability to kind of have a graphics slider, if you will, whether you want higher graphics and lower frame rate, or in this case, higher resolution or lower resolution. Now I'm talking about Fire Emblem Warriors, and apparently you can decide if you want 1080p and 30 frames or 720p and 60 frames. This came in an interview with the Japanese magazine Nintendo Dream from the director himself, Mr. Yasuda, where he talked about Fire Emblem Warriors having these options. So if you're more along the lines of, I want better looking visuals and I don't mind a lower frame rate, you can do that. There's an option in the settings where you can change it around, whether you want the 60 frames per second because maybe you're more about the action, you like that smooth gameplay, or maybe you're on the side of the fence that really doesn't see 60 frames per second as well as others do, and you just want that native 1080p resolution and don't mind the 30 frames per second. The big thing here is choice. Now, we have games out that are kind of giving us this option already. Rise of the Tomb Raider is a big one. There are so many options for that game right now, whether you do want 60 frames per second performance mode, or you want 4K straight up at like a 30 frames per second, or you want 1080p with like enhanced visuals where they have better effects, whether it's weather effects or lighting, all kinds of stuff there. I know tessellation was big in that if you choose that option. So it's interesting to see that consoles are getting graphic sliders almost, like how we would play around with on PCs for a long time now, where you decide, well, I want this up, shadow quality up, but I'll go ahead and turn anisotropic filtering down, and then I'll make sure the resolution is this much. That was kind of a game we would play for quite a while with the PC when a new game would come out, whereas console players would just pop the game in and go. You don't really have any of those decisions, which is a big thing for a lot of console gamers. In this case, though, console gamers are going to have to start figuring these sliders out soon, because we are getting to that point where, well, these systems are turning more and more into PCs every day. But at least in this case, it's pretty straightforward. You either get high frame rate and a medium resolution. I assume that 720p, by the way, will be upscaled to 1080p, much like we've seen with like the Xbox One native 900p, but upscaled to 1080p, or you get that native 1080p experience with half the frame rate. Oh, I did put a poll out on Twitter just to see. It looks like a lot of you guys prefer the higher frame rate at 720p, again, which will probably be upscaled. And I can understand that definitely, because a higher frame rate, especially if it really is a 60 frames per second experience, is awesome. And in a game like that, where it's going to be nonstop action going on everywhere, you definitely want that feeling of responsiveness in that game where, you know, stuff is going crazy, but the frame rate sticks at 60 and it feels so much better. It's just so much more fluid. I always prefer frame rate, and when I take a look at this game, I am going to check the different modes and see how different it really looks as opposed to how different it feels. So I can tell you now, 30 to 60 is a big feeling in terms of difference, whereas you might not know the difference from 720p upscale to 1080p native on your TV. Also, I don't think anything's going to be different with handheld mode. It's just straight up 720p at 30 frames per second, more than likely, because of that difference in the GPU clock that changes when it does come off the adapter and goes to battery power. So I would assume handheld won't have any options. That part will probably be grayed out kind of, and it'll just be 720p 30 in handheld mode. They also went on to talk about the new 3DS XL version being, well, just 30 frames, as I think most of us would expect, since while that game will probably be really demanding on places like the Switch, it'll definitely be demanding on the 3DS, even though that resolution is pretty low. Still, it should stick at 30 frames on there at like its low, resolution of like 240p or something. Next up, let's talk about PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. It's a game that has pretty much gone viral online as best as any game can. It tops the charts of like the Twitch streamers, it tops YouTubers who stream. Basically, anyone who streams a lot is probably playing this game. And it's become just so popular. Not even, I guess I would even say overnight. It came out and then it got picked up, then everybody just started playing it. So much so now that it has topped Steam's concurrent player base over Dota 2, which is a game that is free on Steam. Not only is Dota 2 free, it's Valve's game. It's like their game on Steam that they push. They have these big tournaments and everything. But man, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, even though it's a paid game where you have to buy it, it's good. It's topping the charts. It's insane to see how popular this game is. Now let's take a look at the charts here on Steam that we last saw. And you're going to see here 877,844 concurrent players at peak time. This was posted on the 27th. That'd be Sunday, so yesterday. And that's just above Dota 2 and even Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike was so big for a while. Dota 2 overtakes that. Again, Dota 2 is free, so pretty much you can download it. It runs on pretty much any computer at this point. You have to have a very old computer to not be able to play Dota 2. And then PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, while it's also not super demanding, does need at least a video card that's halfway decent if you're going to be playing it seriously and not looking to play it, 30 frames or less. So this game is extra popular. It crossed 7 million sales, and it's even been talked about how it is the best-selling game across all platforms so far this year. And it's just going to get bigger when it comes to the Xbox. And then eventually it probably, based on the language they're using here, it probably will go to the PS4. And this game, I just want to see where the sales end. I mean, is it going to cross, 20 million sales by next year if it is on the Xbox and the PS4 at that time? This game is amazing because, and this is what people need to keep in mind, this game came out of nowhere. Like, it was randomly comes up. I know people were following it kind of on the way up, but for the most part, the public finds out about it and it explodes. And this should give you a lot of hope that games that are smaller, that aren't like Call of Duty or Battlefield, can just pop up and take over the charts. And it's really neat to see that, because seeing something like this gives me hope for the future that we can see these kind of games show up, take over, and really blow out of the water these big AAA games that really, while they give you the experience you want, I feel like there's more value in PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. And I think it will also benefit esports because it's a lot more fun to watch this game. And it seems like people in general have an easier time following something like Call of Duty. So now I'm just curious as to where the gravy train ends for the PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds developers at this point. I guess we'll find out. Next up, let's talk about PC piracy, at least kind of. I mean, I guess I would consider it piracy if the developers are doing it themselves. Let me explain. There's a game called Darkwood. It was made by Acid Wizard Studios, and it wasn't it was selling okay, but so many people apparently were sending them messages asking for free Steam keys, and I guess it wasn't selling as well as they wanted it to. Even though it's $14.99, by the way, it's not an expensive game. But in this case, it's a top-down survival kind of horror style game. And what they decided to do was, because so many people were asking for free keys and a lot of people, I guess, weren't buying it at least as much as they wanted to, they decided to kind of release it, essentially. They uploaded a free version of it to piracy sites. So what happened here is it was already being pirated heavily. And they were like, well, if anyone's going to do it, it's us. And they release it, and they put a message out to the community saying, look, if you can't afford this game, that's fine. Download it now, play it, enjoy it, and if you do like it, support us down the line. Buy it when it's on sale, when it's like half price something on Steam. Or if you do get the money later on, buy it then and just show your support. This is an interesting move, by the way, by this studio. I'm not sure how many other places will follow it, because it seems crazy to release your game for free on torrent sites, but I mean, this is kind of them just saying, look, if you're going to pirate it from us, and then help us out down the line and, buy it. How many people actually will? I don't know, because this seems like kind of good faith on the developers' end, and maybe some people will kind of want to reciprocate and be like, well, you let me play the game for a while for free. The least I can do is spend $7 on Steam Summer Sale whenever that comes around, or Winter Sale. Yeah, I'll buy it. I spent 20 hours playing it. I mean, that's pretty good. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think on this one. This is very interesting. If you were a developer and your stuff was being pirated heavily and maybe the sales weren't as high as you wanted it to, would you act in good faith and hope that gamers will reciprocate after playing your game for a while if they like it, to throw you some money? I don't know. It's a really interesting strategy. Let me know what you guys think here. Now let's jump back over to Final Fantasy 15, a game that's kind of been in the limelight, right, throughout Gamescom. I mean, we find out that they're doing this big Windows version. We find out there might be mod support. And now, from Tabata himself, is saying that they're going to do their best to include a level editor in the PC version. A level editor. That means people are going to build entire maps to go along with quests that are modded in. This game could be massive. In fact, he said this to Engadget. There were limitations to the game to ensure it ran on consoles, but that's less of an issue with PCs, especially when it comes to modding. PC gaming has a culture of customization and modification, and we want to ensure that those gamers can do what they want to the game. We're looking into the possibilities of a dedicated level editor. We want to ensure that gamers will be playing Final Fantasy 15 for a long time to come. You know what, I look at this and I see the Grand Theft Auto 5 effect all over this statement, right? They're talking about they want people to play it for a long time to come. Well, it's a game that keeps selling well beyond its means, right? Grand Theft Auto 5, the modifications have been outstanding. That is a big reason it sold so well. The single player mods are awesome in that game. But they're talking about building in mods and a level editor natively to this game on the PC. This could end up being, and I'm not even kidding, the best RPG ever made, just because the possibilities here are endless. Think about everything that could happen here. People could even rebuild old Final Fantasy games in Final Fantasy 15 with that engine. They could go back as far as Final Fantasy 1 all the way up through Final Fantasy 13 if they wanted to, and rebuild it. Is that going to be insane? Would you buy Final Fantasy 15 again, even if you own it, if level editor was there and the mods were there to support that kind of an idea? I know I would. And in our last bit of news, we have an update on Steep for the Nintendo Switch. I know you probably think, as well as I do, that it was getting canceled because we hadn't heard anything about it, despite new DLC being announced a year later, essentially, for the other platforms, including the PC, the PS4, and the Xbox One, but nothing about the Nintendo Switch version. We did kind of hear rumors that they were having a hard time getting it working, so they were seeking out Nintendo's advice. But we did at least get a minor update here from someone who works as a lighting and 3D artist over in Ubisoft, and this is what they had to say. No, he's still in the phase of optimization. The frame rate is played yo-yo, so impossible to get it out in the current state, but the game is not cut. Now, this was translated from French using, I assume, Twitter's best means possible to translate. However, the idea is simple. They are still working through it. It's not cut yet. It's not canceled, but they're working through some frame rate issues. It sounds like, I assume yo-yo in this case means that it's kind of up and down, right? They have great times where the frame rate's fine, but maybe when they're going down the slopes and all this stuff's kind of whizzing by, the frame rate maybe drops into the 20s, maybe into the teens even, and it's just, in their words, not ready yet. But it's not canceled yet either, so they're at least still working on it. They're trying to get it working. Will they? I can't tell you yes or no. I'm not internal to them, but at least they're still working on it, and maybe in a future direct, we see it. Maybe we find a release date. I mean, really, guys, we don't have a release date for Skyrim yet, and that game is shown working beautifully. So who knows here, but I really hope this game does make it over because it would be a lot of fun to play portably, even though it seems to be an online-only game. At least having the option for people who have not played it yet and they want to play it on their Switch will be good. And that's it for Newswave today, guys. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me know what you think about any of the stuff we talked about today. Whether it is Steep on the Nintendo Switch, do you think it's actually going to make it over, or do you think that thing's pretty much canceled? They're doing their best, but it's not going to work. Also, let me know what you think about the Fire Emblem choice. Would you go with frame rate at 60 frames, 720p? Or are you more on the side of, you know what, I want that 1080p native experience. I don't mind 30 frames as much. That's it for now, guys. I'll see you next time.